21 onwards, when we read, we see, and at the end of 8 days, when he was circumcised, he was called Jesus, the name given by the angels before he was conceived in the womb. Verse 22, and when the time came for their purification according to the law of Moses, they brought him up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, as it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that opens the womb shall be called holy unto the Lord. And then we see the story of Simeon and Hannah. But here we see Jesus is fulfilling all the law. Even his parents were taking care of fulfilling the law in the life of Jesus Christ, even as an infant. God made everything in such a way that God wanted to see that Jesus is perfect before the law. In Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, Paul says, but when the time had fully come, God sent forth his son, born of woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. So God wanted to make sure that everything that is in the life of Jesus is happening under the law, because he was appointed to redeem people who were under the law. Even in that case, he was identifying with the mankind, or even the Jewish people, because he was fulfilling all that is required of the law of the Jewish people. Okay? And we see two old people, one is Simeon and one is Hannah. Simeon was very old, and he was a righteous person, and he was a devoted person, and he was a hopeful person. He was there to always keeping a hope for the of the consolation of Israel. And the Spirit of the Lord said that you will not die until you see the Christ of God. Okay? So a lot of things I have written about that, but I have no time to explain all those things. And he was in the temple when he was only 8 days old. Now we see Jesus again in the temple when he was 12 years old. That we see in chapter 2 of Luke, verse 21. There again we see that Jesus was in the temple, and verse 41 onwards, when we read that Jesus was going to the temple with his parents. Don't think that Jesus was visiting the temple only at the age of 12. It was a common practice for all the religious Jewish people to go to the temple every year, at least at the time of Passover. I've told you earlier. So it is a fact that many times Jesus was taken to the temple, and now at the age of 12, his parents were taking. Verse 41, now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of Passover. Every year. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to the custom. And when the feast was ended, as they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. Because they go as a group. Normally it is not as a family. Of course, the family, they are going, but it is a group. So what happens, many times the children may not be with the father and mother, maybe playing with other children or with other families. And while they were going back from Jerusalem back to Nazareth, they thought Jesus would be with them. But Jesus was not there. He stayed back in Jerusalem in the temple. And they could not find him in the evening. And they were afraid. And they were going back. One day they traveled from Jerusalem, but they were looking here and there. So it took 3 days to go back. Because while coming back, they were running fast or coming back very fast. But they did not know that Jesus was in the temple. If they knew that Jesus was in the temple, if there was a mobile phone, then certainly it was easy for them to find out. But they didn't know that Jesus was in the temple, so they were looking here and there on the way, or even going to all the corners of the street. So whether Jesus was left somewhere there, he was 12 years old, but finally they reached the temple and they found him in the temple. And verse 48, and when they saw him, they were astonished, and his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been looking for you anxiously." Why did you do this? It's a normal question of any mother. Any mother. But Jesus said, don't consider me as a normal child. You are asking this question as if I am a small child or I am a normal child. A normal child is supposed to be with their parents. But remember, I have some other business. Verse 49, and he said to them, "How is it that you sought me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" He was asking his parents, why did you seek me? Why did you seek me? That's where they needed to understand that Jesus is different. In fact, Mary knew that he is different. Even Joseph knew that he is different. But after some time, because they were loving him very much, they could not part from him. They always wanted Jesus to be with them. And they wanted to keep Jesus for themselves. To them, God's promises and God's design and God's interest, it's all away. And the love for the boy Jesus was more than God's appointments. This is something that happens in our life also. Maybe many times we are for the ministry, we are living for God, and we love Jesus very much. But when it comes in terms with our own family members, our wife, our husband, our children, then we are very much possessing them. You need to love your parents, you need to love your children, you need to love your wife, you need to love your husband, but you shall not possess. This is one of the biggest lessons that we need to learn in Christian life. You are not supposed to love anybody, including your children, more than the godly affairs, more than God. You understand, my friends? Okay? Many times we are tempted to look for worldly affairs and worldly relationship more than godly affairs and godly relationship. Jesus says, why did you seek me? Do you think that I am just yours? I am yours, of course. Do you think that I am just yours? My wife belongs to me. That's true. But she is not just for me. God wants us to live for others. Look at the cross. What we see. We see a man who lived for others and dying for others. If you want to become a true Christian, you will be a person who lives for others and dying for others. Many times we have a wrong notion that we need to make everything comfortable and secure for our life, and only then you need to look for the things of God. No. Jesus says, don't you know, did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? I'm in my Father's business. And verse 50, and they did not understand the saying which he spoke to them. They were wondering why this child is saying like this. He's our child. Why he says it is not necessary that he should be always with us. Sometimes women need their past husband who is a missionary always with them. Always. They will never allow him to go to any place. Hey, we are a family. God has made you my husband, stay with me. This is one of the biggest struggle missionaries have. The women are trying to possess their husbands. Possess. And possessing their husbands is not exactly what God was looking for. Even think, after the fall, God said to the woman that you shall bear children in pain, and your husband will rule over you, and your desire shall be towards him. It is not a heavenly order. It is an order happened after fall. Both these things as not designed by God when God created man and wife. God did not want man to rule over the wife. Neither God did not want woman to possess her husband. God created them as suitable companions, not as a ruler, and a person is ruling, one person is ruling and the other person is ruled by the other person. It was not godly order. God wanted them to be companions. It's the same. God never wanted women to possess. This is a big problem that happens in the families. If the office closes at 5 o'clock, the wife, she will be ready to wait for 5:30, and if she do not see her husband at 5:30, she will wait half an hour more at 6. And if he comes at 6, her face is like this. And if it's 6:30, where were you? And if it is 7, with whom you were? Possessing. I used to take classes on family living. Even in my website, you can hear one message on Christian family living. This is a big problem. This is not biblical. It's not biblical. I used to say there are 100 ways you can please a wife. And there is only one way to please your husband. To please a wife, you need to check 100 things. Only then she will be happy. To make a man happy, there is only one way. Only one thing you do. Just leave him alone. Just one thing. You can make your husband happy. Just leave him alone. Am I right? Okay? So, my dear daughters and sisters, I tell you, the virginity of your husband is not in your hands. It is, don't think that if I hold him, you can keep the virginity of your husband. I'm just joking, using the word in a different way. You cannot. You cannot. Leave him alone. Love him. It is your love that keeps him close to you. It is the love that keeps your husband close to you. It's the same with husband. It's love. Many times I'm away from my wife, maybe 10,000 kilometers away from my wife. But we understand that we are doing it for a cause. We know that it is for the kingdom of God. If my wife doesn't understand it, I cannot do that. So as a family, if it is a missionary family, the first thing you need to know that you are not living for yourself. If it is a missionary family, the first thing you need to know that you are living for a cause. And a lot of sacrifice is needed in the family life if you truly follow Jesus Christ. Truly for Jesus Christ. Okay? I'm just saying this because the question of Jesus Christ, why did you seek us? Many times, you cannot expect your missionary husband come to your home early evening or something like that. Sometimes it is possible. Sometimes always talking over phone. Sometimes, how can you just deny the people to call you many times? A bank officer can do that. An IAS officer can do that. But many times a missionary cannot do that. I tell you one example. When I write my articles many times and I'm not sleeping for a night, maybe at least for one night. Most of the time, I write an article every week for a magazine. So many times, it should reach the magazine office at Friday morning. So many times I start Wednesday, and Wednesday I may not be able to finish it. Maybe I have some meetings. And Thursday morning I start writing again. And sometimes I finish it only on Friday morning without sleeping. I'm writing. Many times I go to bed maybe after 40 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, like that. And I tell you one incident. Once I finished my article at 10 o'clock in the morning Friday, I just sent it by email. And then I had a meeting in the afternoon. So I asked my wife, I'm going to sleep for 2 hours. At 12 o'clock I need to go. So while I was going to bed, I got a telephone call. It's from a woman. And she said, brother, I am wife of this man. I understand. I understood it because I know that person. They are almost like in the brink of separation. And she said, when I make a telephone call to my husband, he doesn't take it. My mother-in-law never talks to me. My sister-in-law never talks to me. But my own mother doesn't take my telephone. And my sister never wants to hear what I say. And yesterday I found my child is missing. He's a teenage boy. He is leaving the home. And to whom I will call? Do you think that I should say, I'm sorry, sister. I'm very tired. I was working hard for the last 40 hours. So call me in the afternoon. Can I say like that? No. That woman was talking to me for 1.5 hours. And it was 11:30. I said, Jesse, let me take a bath. Let's go. Again, I was going, teaching, came back in the night, midnight. I went to bed. So this is, don't think that I'm trying to say some sacrificial stories and all. Don't think like that. This is missionary life. Many times you are not living for yourself. You are living for others. You need to live for others. Many times, that the family should understand that. I thank God because my family understands it. Even my children understands it. And we need to train up the children like that we are different. Missionaries should train up their children saying that we are different. We are living for others. I have taught my children many lessons from the early childhood. One thing, money is the cheapest thing in the world. That's what I taught my children first. Money is the cheapest thing in the world. Everybody will know that in some time of your life, but by that time you would be going down to the grave. One day you will understand it. Everybody will understand it. And the second thing, the valuable thing is, first of all, the biggest thing is time. And we need to give time, and only time can make a relationship. You cannot make a relationship with money. You can make relationship only giving your time. And time is so precious because the time that you have in this life is the span of your life. If you live for 40 years, the time God has given you, right? If it is 70 years, 70 years is the time that God has given you. So time you cannot extend. Money you can have more or less, but time is the most important thing. That's the reason why God has given exactly 24 hours for everybody in the world. Barack Obama also gets only 24 hours, not more than that. You get my point? And the next thing, when you give time, you are giving life. Because the time that is in your account is the span of your life. If that's the case, when you give time for somebody, you're giving your own life. That's for what we are living in this world. We need to give our life for others. By giving your time, you are giving your life. A lot of things, this is out of syllabus, but I hope this will help you. to be more godly in your missionary work. Am I right? Okay. So now let's come to the things that is written in. It says in Matthew. I need to read some passages. Luke chapter 2 verse 9. Luke chapter 2 verse 9, we see that, and the angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone upon them, and they were filled with fear. And the angel said to them, be not afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy. It was a joy for all the people. It is for all the people. Matthew chapter 2 verse 13 onwards. Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in the dream and said, departed means the wise men. When the wise men departed, the angel of the Lord appeared to them, Joseph, in a dream and said, rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there till I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. So just after the wise people left them, they were fleeing to Egypt. Why they were fleeing to Egypt? Because it has got a theological or some kind of explanation. Matthew says that Jesus is coming. Of course, he was born in Bethlehem, but he is coming to Nazareth. He is coming back to his hometown from Egypt. Why? Because it is exactly the same thing happened to the people of Israel. So the Bible explains the New Testament people as New Israel, right? We are New Israel. So God was doing something to make similarity with the emerging of the original Israel, that is the people of Israel in the Old Testament, and he was making or turning things in such a way that some kind of similarity is happening in the life of the new Israel. So earlier the Israel was the son, and in Exodus chapter 4 verse 22, Exodus chapter 4 verse 22, God says, and you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn. And I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. So Israel is called as the son of God, the son, the firstborn. And now Israel is not the son, it is Jesus Christ. Mark chapter 1 verse 1, the Gospel of Mark chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Okay? So in the Old Testament, who was the Son? Israel. In the New Testament, who is the Son? Jesus. So God wanted both of them coming out of Egypt. It is true that Jacob and his sons were going from Canaan or Palestine to Egypt and coming back from Egypt. Likewise, now Jesus is staying in Palestine, and from Palestine he is going back to Egypt, and he is coming back from Egypt. In chapter 2 verse 21 to 23 we see Matthew chapter 2 verse 21 and